So the last thing that I want to say about this is to go back to the number 1250 for a second and bring our context back to the table. Right? We decided about the slope, that negative 10 in this context meant that if I were to lower the price of my iPhones by $10, so drop the price by $10, I end up selling 1 million more iPhones. Right? So that was what the negative 10 meant. What does this 1250 mean? What is it telling us about iPhone sales in this context? What do you think? Because it's an intercept, that means that one of the quantities in play is equal to 0. Right? So we can think of either the price dropping to 0 or the sales quantity dropping to 0. Let's look at those two different places on this graph. Price is my y-coordinate. So if I drop the price to 0, it means I'm going all the way down. So on my graph, I'd be going down, 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 down to here. So here is a point on the graph at which the price of my iPhones has dropped down to 0. And this point has an x-coordinate of, well, I guess we could find that. I'm going to take an educated guess at it here. I think it's 125. So the x-coordinate of that point is 125, and the y-coordinate of that point is 0. So that's the x-intercept rather than the y-intercept. So the x-intercept is the point on this graph at which y is equal to 0. Right? So in context, it's when the price of iPhones drops to 0, how many of them do we quote-unquote sell? At that point, they wouldn't be selling at all. We'd be giving them away, right? So how many iPhones could I give away if I just let everybody take one? That answer, I guess, would be 125 million in this model. Right? So that's the x-intercept. At the y-intercept, what's equal to 0? So at the x-intercept, y was 0. At the y-intercept, x is 0. And so back into context, what does that mean about my iPhone sales? It means I'm selling no iPhones at that point. Why am I selling no iPhones at that point? Because I've jacked the price up so high that all of my demand is evaporated. Right? So there is a point, there is a price point at which no one in the world is going to buy an iPhone anymore. This is a pretty simplistic model, but that's what this model would be telling us, right? So by the time I'm charging $1,250 for each phone, nobody wants to buy anymore, and so I don't sell any iPhones at that quantity. Right? So the greatest thing about doing these problems in context is that we can take any point on this line and any feature of this line, like the slope, and put it back, put the context back into it, and ask, what is this number actually telling me about the relationship that I'm looking at? So interpreting a slope, interpreting an intercept, these are important things to be able to do, because this really gives you the power that just having an initial table of data like this didn't give us. We had to go through the process of finding an equation for this line. We used the graph to kind of mediate that reasoning. But by the time we get this equation, now we have a bunch more information on the nature of this relationship between these two quantities.